and welcome to another part of the Warrior Within Docuseries. I'm your host, Jaime Bennett, and as always, viewer discretion is very strongly advised. I have a very, very special episode in this part 7 of the docuseries. Yes, you heard me right, part 7. It's been an incredible journey so far. I've had a lot of incredible guests on this show. This show is a little bit different because this is their journeys. This isn't my journey. They're going to be telling you their stories, their life's journeys, and how they have become warriors within. We all have a story to tell, and this is their story. I have a very special episode for you all because I have a co-host on this episode. She has been on my show several times. I consider her a sister and a very, very good friend, and I appreciate and respect her so much. She's an incredible, amazing human being, although she would say that she doesn't think so. I know her too well. But Madeline Moniz is going to be my co-host, and we have a very special guest by the name of Shannyne, and this is Shannon's journey. I'm going to bring Madeline up first because she's my co-host.
Hello.
Hey, thank you for co-hosting.
Pleasure.
I always love having you on the show. It's always incredible having you on here. Now, the topic and the journey that we're going to be speaking upon, you've already talked about on the Warrior Within TV series, which is Chiari malformation. And that's why, it's very, very important for you to be a co-host on this episode, because me being a person who doesn't understand a lot about it, I've never heard of it before I met you. And you told me that you had it and you told me what it was about. It's good to have you on here as another viewpoint, because I would not know any of the questions to ask, and I wouldn't know anything about it because I don't have it myself. So thank you for co-hosting this episode with me, and you can co-host any of the episodes with me.
And thank you for having Shannon on too.
Oh yeah, she's an incredible human being. You all are in for a treat. She's a very, very incredible human being. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her up on stage. She's waiting in the green room, so hang on just a moment. This is Shannon, and she's going to be talking about her journey. Hello.
Hey, Shannon.
Hello. How are you?
We're good.
Good. Thanks for being a part of the program.
Thanks for having me.
So like I said, you are going to be talking about Chiari malformation and what that means. And it's good that Madeline's here because she can kind of walk through the steps of this. When were you diagnosed? Is it a recent diagnosis?
Yes. I was actually diagnosed on March 12th of this year, 2024.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Took about 21 years of symptoms progression before somebody actually listened. So it's been a long road, and it's still going.
What was your initial reaction when you finally got the diagnosis?
In all honesty, for about a year, I have tried to get an MRI and was denied twice, 2 separate times. And we had thought maybe it could be just because of the symptoms and everything that I know people have told me over the last year. And so when I went and did the MRI, I didn't even get home from my doctor's appointment when I got a notification on my phone that I have a new document to read on my portal. And so I, hurriedly went to the portal and I read the report, and it was just like super, super emotional. I called my mother, and because she's a nurse, so I have been talking to her about the symptoms and the progression. She kind of actually helped me make a journal, so to speak, because from age 13 to now, it hasn't always been the same. The symptoms have actually progressed a lot over the years, the most within the last 2 years. So it's been a long journey so far.
Madeline, how long ago were you diagnosed? And like the same question, like when you were diagnosed, what thoughts ran through your mind?
I was diagnosed in October of 2010. It took about 15 years to be diagnosed, and it was a chiropractor that actually sent me to get the MRI. And when my chiropractor called me in his office and gave me the results, actually, after waiting 15 years and having the doctors basically telling me, making me feel like a hypochondriac, I actually felt vindicated. And I actually started laughing in the office until I went home and I researched on the computer. And that's when it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like, I've looked things up on the computer because, my daughter was in the NICU, and it in no way compares to, Chiari malformation, but my daughter was in the NICU, and like, I looked up something the other day because she's been having a lot of acid reflux here lately, and she has a fundo wrap. She had fundo wrap surgery, and I looked that up, and I scared myself half to death, and I was like, that's the first mistake, is looking it up and then not being able to understand it.
Yeah, it makes it very scary, the symptoms that you can see online.
Oh, yeah.
And most of them even say that, the things are going to result in death. So I try to steer clear for certain things, for sure.
Yeah. Most definitely.
I have one question for you, Shannon. Have you ever gotten, because I know I mentioned to you, this copy of Conquer Chiari from Amazon?
I have not.
I
send me that link, I will.
It's only $20. I highly recommend it because basically it's a patient's guide to Chiari malformation, and it is actually written by a guy, Rick Labuda, that he actually had Chiari malformation. He has it still, and he went through the decompression surgery and so forth. So not only does he talk about his journey in here, but it also discusses. There's many chapters in here that one discusses, because I know you were looking into the surgery, but one does discuss finding a neurosurgeon. It discusses, also discusses surgery, the surgical experience, and things that you could do afterwards, and so forth. It gives you a guide, and it also will also is also for people like me who chooses not to have surgery,
right,
and just to do the wait and see approach. But it's funny, this there is also a chapter, the last chapter in this book, 10 Steps to Conquering Chiari. So it gives you, whether you have surgery or not, it gives you ideas.
Yeah,
and things.
That's great to have.
Wait, it is, and I use this. This is like my Bible, but because I know when I was first diagnosed, my response to things were, when there were activities I couldn't do. Instead of me saying I can't do this, I can't do that. This book actually helps me to change that thinking to, how can I do this, or how can I do that?
Right.
Because you still can do things. We just have to change our way of doing things, not to aggravate our symptoms.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend that you purchase
I will definitely have to get it.
There's two editions, but it's this the second edition.
The second one.
Because it's more updated information.
Right. I would definitely have to get it. Just gonna give me that link, and I definitely will do it.
I will.
And I'll definitely put a link to it in the show description whenever this goes to air. If you all are watching this right now, this is pre-recorded. So if we don't answer your comments on the screen, don't think that we're ignoring you because it's pre-recorded. The secret's out of the bag. Oh no! But it's pre-recorded. I like to do my shows.
We'll watch. We'll watch when you record it. So if people ask questions in the comments, we'll answer them.
We will try our best to get back to the comments and answer you all's questions. Don't worry about that. Madeline, I have a question for you, and I don't think that I asked this when you were on speaking on this topic before, but I imagine the agoraphobia came before the Chiari malformation diagnosis. Is that correct?
Yes. The agoraphobia. I'm tongue-tied. It wasn't really a result of my symptoms.
Yeah.
I've had agoraphobia, but being so symptomatic, it didn't help. It didn't help things.
Yeah.
I was already prone to that, but it didn't help. But once I was diagnosed, and once I realized it did kind of help the agoraphobia, because here I went to therapy and it's like, oh, do the breathing and this and that and to relax, whatever, and none of that helped. And the reason why it didn't help is because it was it was something physical that was bringing it on, and not just my mind playing on me.
That's a double whammy there. That has to be rough. Like I don't even want to imagine it.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
Like I don't even want to think about it. Like I feel for both of you. Like I don't understand it. And like I said, the first time that I'd ever heard of something like this existing is when Madeline told me. And then when she told me, I watched whatever videos she sent me and I started researching it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I feel for you both.
I know, but when I tell you, or I tell a few of my friends when I'm having a bad day or a very symptomatic day, I just send a text. I feel like death. Because that's basically what it feels like.
I had a pretty hard day yesterday. Yesterday was one of my hard days this week, for sure.
Goodness. Like, I know when I'm having issues, like I have real bad kidney problems and I get sick and it wears me out and I have a hard time accomplishing things. It in no way compares to Chiari malformation, but like I know that I get tired and I have a hard time accomplishing the things that I want to accomplish during a day. And I don't work very many hours a week at my job, but man, it really, really wears me out. I can only imagine like having this and what a day looks like for you all. Like,
well, I don't know about you, Shannon, but to me, it's scary, because you know when people say, oh, I have a headache, or our headaches are different, and it's just this freaking scary sensation in our head that it's like, I don't know how you feel, but it's almost like we're in a freaking Twilight Zone, and it's like we're in La La Land, and it's like it's just it's a scary feeling. And there are times where I don't know if you do, but I could actually feel the swirling in my head and everything. And I feel like, almost feels like I'm about to pass out, but I don't. I just linger. And
I get
that's the worst.
Like if I go to stretch too fast or stand up too fast, you get all black, or I see spots. And if I haven't passed out, but I've been, like you said, like I'm real close to where I see like I'm fading. And then thankfully the last time recently I was doing my daughter's clothes in her bedroom, and they have a bunk bed. So I got up quickly to grab something off the bunk bed and landed on my bed, and on her bed, I mean. And it's scary because, you know, what if you're not home when something like that happens? You know, or what if I have my 3 kids with me? Like, are they going to know how to help me, or, you know?
Well, with me, it scares because I live alone, and it's like, what if I'm passed out?
Right.
Like, nobody will know until they can smell
That's
the
almost
stench
scarier. You know, I'm grateful that I do have some helpers. You know, I can't imagine when you have your bad day if you don't have anybody there with you. Like I commend you for that, because I do have a lot of help from my husband specifically.
That's good.
So yeah,
and that's important to have support.
I do feel for you there. I remember you and I had a conversation before, you know, off of air and stuff, and I can't imagine you having to be alone. So I'm at least like to be with you guys so you're not so alone, you know?
Yeah, I check up on Madeline quite a bit. I try to talk to her every day in the chat, and then I know when she doesn't respond right away, she's having one of her days, and I just
one of my death days.
Yeah.
Wait,
go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was gonna say, like, you know, when you are having one of your really bad days and it's hard to accomplish anything, like, what do you do to kind of help the situation out? Like, what's your, I guess, therapeutic process?
In all honesty, there are sometimes there isn't anything that I can do to get it to feel better. I have blackout curtains in my room, in my bedroom, so that does help keep the light out. I just try to close my eyes and get through it. Sometimes I do Epsom salt soaks. Doesn't always work for my neck because it hurts in my head, but it also goes down all the way into my shoulder blades. That about in between the shoulder blades. So they're still having to check to see if I have a syrinx and all that stuff. But CBD rubs, I mean, I've tried all methods of medication that they have given at this point. I've tried acupuncture. Nothing seems to work on those days. I went to the ER after a 9-day headache back when I had to quit my job in September of 23. And they gave me everything they can give me in a hospital setting, and it didn't do anything. I think maybe it helped for about half hour to an hour. And then after that, I went home. They couldn't get me in to do an MRI for another 11 hours. And I was already there for 10 hours at that moment in the waiting room, mind you. So I kind of gave up that night. So I went home and, I just try to get through those days. Recently, that was the longest 9-day flare, I guess, I've ever had. It was like just ongoing. It didn't have, and I was having to work, which I had to call in. And, you know, at the time I was a caregiver. So trying to take care of my elderly veterans at the time when I can't take care of my own self was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I ended up having to quit at the end of September. I
Goodness.
was too afraid.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was how your routine changed, because I imagine, like, you know, routines change when something like this happens.
Absolutely. As a mom of 3, I have a 8, 12, and 16-year-old.
Oh, goodness.
They don't get along most of the time. So it could be rough when I'm really struggling with myself, because no matter how much you say to your family, your friends, coworkers, you know, people that you know, what it may feel like, they can never truly understand, you know, how much it affects every aspect of everything you do every single day, like sleeping, waking, walking, everything, swallowing. So, you know, every morning, I am very slow to get up. I have to sit before I can stand. I can't have that mom reflex like I used to if something happens where you have to jump up and go do something, because I know that I might faint or almost faint if I do. So definitely I have slowed down on things that I have to do, pace myself for everything. You know, I can't clean my full house in one day. I definitely have to break that up.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. So
bless your heart. Bless both of your hearts, gosh.
Just don't clean the house.
Well, that's my other thing. It's like
that's when you should give
to clean up after themselves is so rough. Gosh, you know, I give them even my 8-year-old has little chores that I give her to do to try to kind of help me out in a sense too, teaching them how to organize things or clean things that I would do that I can't always do because of me having a bad day, or, you know, I can't bend over without my head and my face feeling like they're going to explode. So my son, a lot of times, if I drop things a lot. That's actually one of my recent symptoms, is that I get tingling in my hands and I drop things. So my son, he picks them up a lot, you know, those kind of things that you don't really think about until you're having to have them help you do those kind of things.
We need a little trained monkey.
My goodness. Therapy monkey. We need a therapy monkey. Now, this may be a dumb question, and I don't mean it to be like rude or dumb in any way.
Question is dumb.
Are there different forms of Chiari malformation, like different levels, different forms?
Well, a lot of times people were saying that they thought, like, on the scale from 0 to, they have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think up to 6 now. I just recently found out that what I might have is 1.5, which I didn't even know was an actual thing. Like, I thought it was just 0, 1, 2, 3, 5. And they said that it is something called complex Chiari, which I'm still reading about because it doesn't have a lot of information about it. But they're not necessarily a scale. Like, anybody that has Chiari, if it's 3 to 5 millimeters or over, 3 for a child, 5 for adults, it's considered Chiari. But the other parts of the numbers basically mean, like, if your brainstem is further down, or if it's more compressed, or if the hole on your, I think it's your foramen magnum. I could be wrong, so don't hold me to this. I'm not a professional or an expert. But it does show if the hole is bigger, that they change that to like a 2 or a 4. I know the other ones can cause like spinal bifida in children and all those kind of things. But for KRE1 or 1.5 for what I have, typically they don't. Some people don't even have symptoms, which is why it's so hard for people to get a diagnosis. So it's so very, it's a difficult condition or disease, or, whatever you would like to call it, for sure, because it's misdiagnosed more than it's diagnosed.
Yeah. Yeah, there needs to be more information on it, and they need to do more research on it. That's why it's good, that Madeline had been on the show before talking about it, because, it could help other people who just recently got diagnosed, or other people who have family members who are dealing with it. It can help them learn more about it and maybe kind of understand what their family member is going through.
Right.
Well, they are finding that the herniation, how big or how small the herniation, it doesn't matter on the symptoms, and that's what makes me, for myself, I don't want to discourage you, Shannon, but that's what makes me, hold off on considering surgery, because some of us have. There's some people that have Chiari malformation with no symptoms, and they have herniations, and there are people that have herniations that have symptoms. So why is some of us have the symptoms? And so it's more than just, a lot of people get this, discovered they had Chiari just by chance, because they had to get an MRI done for some other reason, and here they have a 10 millimeter herniation with no symptoms. So it's like,
and it definitely depends too on your cerebral spinal fluid flow, because if you aren't having a blockage at all, you shouldn't have a ton of pressure problems in your brain or even in your neck and things like that. But if you have a blockage, or it's even if it's compressed enough, just to compress it enough to where you get a little bit of a decreased flow, you're going to have more symptoms than someone that has no blockage at all. I did have a spinal tap when I was 5, but I didn't start having migraines until I was like 13. I was diagnosed by 15 with chronic migraines. Tried tons of medication even back then. Nothing seemed to help for very long. Or I almost felt like I was in my head that it was helping. Like before, I would take ibuprofen like candy, and think that it's going to help me. But it was more of like I was taking it for peace of mind kind of thing, And then as I got older, I had just had more symptoms. When I had my kids pushing, I had a lot of symptoms, but they just contributed that to postural blood pressure is what they said that I had at that time, which obviously it wasn't. But over the years, I have more symptoms and more symptoms added on, to the point where, I can't exercise now. And I used to be a gym rat. I used to be a makeup artist and did things for cosmetic companies. And now I can barely do my makeup. Can't go on roller coasters, no horseback riding, no hikes. Can't be in the sun. Like there's just a huge list within the last 5 years that have actually worsened. Like I told you, the swallowing. I'm almost choked many times. They checked me for Sjogren's syndrome, which is what my aunt has. That was negative. They checked my thyroid. That was negative. Some of the doctors said that I was in need of psych meds. And that was
me too.
Pretty heartbreaking, It's not in my head, and I wish I could have let them feel my pain, especially as a mother, when you're expected to do so many things on a daily basis and a nightly basis, and you're trying to explain to people around you. But, there's always going to be some people that, call you lazy or think that you're lazy, or that just because they can't see your illness, that it's not there. And you're valid. Your feelings are valid. Your physical abilities or lack thereof, they're all valid, and people should listen more, because I know, I mean, my family might not ever say it, but I'm pretty sure that they have across their minds before, oh, she just doesn't want to do that, or her headache can't be that bad. But
that video that I sent in the chat with Josh Prey,
mm-hmm.
that's a video that I would send to people.
Yes.
To explain.
No, absolutely. Once they found out my diagnosis this March, a lot of people around me helped me or allowed me to do things more on my pace. Or, when I'm saying I'm having a hard time, they're not dismissive like they might have been, or, they're not getting offended by me not helping do something, because I felt guilty. I mean, even I do now, every day there's things that I wanted to accomplish that, by one or two things I've done, I just can't. So I don't make it like a big list anymore, like I might have done when I was able.
Yeah.
Just the little things.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like, just because you can't see, what's going on doesn't mean that the person's not hurting, that they're not going through something. That's very important. The only example that I can give of that is my grandma had something called tic de la rouge, and that was not heard of very often. Right. And it still hasn't been heard of.
I've never heard of it.
What it is like the nerves in the brain shoot, like they shoot rapidly, and it causes pain down in your jaw, constant pain, excruciating pain. And my grandma had to go through that. And the only person that could help her was actually a dentist. They did a alcohol block. And that alcohol block helped for quite a few years. But before the dentist did that, before, my dad was able to take her to St. Louis, because this is where it happened, and it happened in like the 60s or 70s. They didn't know what was going on. She was having all this pain and couldn't make it through a day. And a dentist actually did an alcohol block, and that's what helped her more than anything. Like, it numbed her jaw, like she had a numb jaw for the rest of her life, but
no pain.
No pain.
Yeah, I would take it for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have pain all the time in the tooth that had a root canal.
Oh goodness.
So there's no nerves left in it. And I went to my dentist sent me to an oral surgeon, and basically that's what the oral surgeon said was it was a nerve in my head that's shooting down into that tooth with no nerves, but in the gum area, and was just causing pain.
I get something called trigeminal neuralgia. It's kind of similar to the nerve thing, and it only happens on one or the other side. It's never the same all over. It's only one side of my head or the other, and it basically does the same thing. We don't know what triggers it, but every so often it'll happen. And just to touch the face or brush my hair or like chew on that, whatever side it is extremely painful. And they said it's something to do with the trigeminal nerve and vagus nerve or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it has anything to do with Chiari or, if that's just something completely separate.
Yeah. I know that
the Chiari effect does affect the vagus nerve.
Oh, it does?
Yes, it does.
That is good to know.
And also, I forgot what nerve it may even be the vagus nerve. I'm not sure which, but you said you had problems swallowing.
Yeah. And it's not every single time, which is also frustrating because I want to show the doctors, but it's like every time I'm at the doctor's, it's not happening at that moment, so I can't be like, this is what happens when I eat, it's random. And then my family's freaking out at the table. Like, are you going to be okay? Do I need to go get the thing? Because of this, we have some kind of equipment, I guess you would call it. And it basically, you pull it and it will give you, in a sense, a Heimlich for choking. Because my mom was afraid that no one here would be able to do CPR, didn't know, and that would be the only thing.
Is tough.
Yes. I'm doing myself
but you know something, that's one of the symptoms that probably won't go away even with decompression surgery, because nerve damage